Hello, TikTok and followers. So there's a couple things that I missed when I was talking about the Xbox story involving my son and this predator catfishing him and pretending to be a kid online. And if you didn't watch that two-part series, I'd highly advise you to go watch it if you want to understand what's going on in this video. Not so much to understand. I guess you can understand it. It's just so you know all the details and kind of eliminates a lot of common questions that people ask me when it comes down to telling people about this whole situation and just details. But like I said, I filmed it almost 2 weeks ago now, and I uninstalled the app and it deleted my draft, so I had to redo it again. And it was actually a little bit shorter, and I remember going through it and being like, I'm missing something, and it took me a while to remember, and I finally remembered it. On top of that, the videos are also a little bit shorter too, so it took me a while. It came to me finally. But anyways, what I wanted to say was, when I was talking about this old guy fighting with my son on the Xbox constantly, when he was pretending to be a kid and we had no idea it was him. And you know how I said that, I don't think it was truly him fighting. I don't think that a grown man would have got so angry the way that he did and rile my son up. And it wasn't just a few times. It was a lot. They fought constantly. And like I said, I kicked my son off, not kicked him off, but I got him to block this guy, this kid, many times. And, they would end up re-adding each other back. My son had no idea. He thought he was a literal child. So he just, he got a re-add back from this guy a couple months later after I demanded both of them to stop playing games online. And it was really just to do with the fighting. It wasn't really anything else up until some other event that happened that I'll get to. So, like I said, they fought all the time. Well, here's a point I wanted to bring up was one of the last times that I got my son to block this guy, and, I found out about this in about May, June 2024. And when I found out my son was still playing games with this kid on the Xbox, and I was under the impression that he wasn't, I heard them on the mic and they actually weren't fighting. And I remember talking to my son and he was saying, yeah, we don't fight anymore. He added me as a friend, and I guess maybe they had a talk or whatever. And I didn't really care. All I cared about was the fact that they weren't fighting anymore. But what happened was this guy made a fake account, one of his fake accounts on Facebook. He found my son's dad's family member's profile. He commented on one of their photos. And then that's how we found out that this guy was doing more than just, on the Xbox. This is when we found out that he actually knew my son's name. And it wasn't really about the comment or anything that happened. It was more of just like a shock to all us adults and like, how did this guy know our son's name and how did he find the connection on Facebook? And mind you, it's not really that hard, but before we even knew about all of this, we were really confused. And then that's when we asked our son, and we said, what is going on? Who is this person? Because he mentioned our son's name in the post. He was just trying to get him in trouble. I think he was just trying to stir up some crap on Facebook. And that wasn't the only time he's tried doing that. But anyways, my son fessed up and said that, yeah, it's this sniper kid. And he gave us this name that apparently he gave my son, which was completely bullshit. But that's when I had enough. I said, okay, now he's starting to go onto social media and bug, family members and stuff. I said, that's enough, no more. I demanded for my son to block this kid and never ever, add him as a friend or anything. So he did. He listened to me. But like I said, a few months later, this guy ended up adding him back. And then they weren't fighting ever again. So this is what I'm talking about with the manipulation part. Is he full on was causing problems and trying to get my son riled up. And the thing that, my theory behind it is he couldn't get at me, the way that he wanted to. He's not making me miserable the way he wants me to. He's not sabotaging things. He's not ruining things, because I looked into this stuff. And when stalkers and creeps can't get to you, and they can't get access to you, they go and manipulate other people around you, and they try and sabotage your relationships. They try doing a bunch of stuff, and it's failing. So I think that's why he resorted to my child, because it was easier to manipulate him. But when I put up the last time and said that, you blocked this guy and demanded, obviously my son had to tell him and say, hey, my mom said that's enough. I can't ever play games with you ever again because of A, B, C, and D. It wasn't so much the Facebook post. It was the amount of fighting. And everybody knows that if you stay with, a toxic person, whether they're a friend, a family member, whatever, you're going to end up just like that person. You're going to exert the same type of characteristics, the same behavior. And I think that's what this guy was trying to do, because he knows my son's a well-behaved kid. He's a good kid. He's respectful. He's got a lot of good things going for him, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, like I've mentioned. And I think that's what this guy was trying to do, is he was trying to fuck him up mentally. And then when he finally realized that I was pulling the plug and pulling the access that he had, which was through my son, that's when he smartened up and purposely stopped fighting with him. And that's what I'm saying, is he purposely was trying to fight with him. He purposely was trying to fuck him up. And then when he realized he had no access, he purposely stopped fighting with my son. And when my son and I were going through all this, how this guy managed to manipulate my son, and just, breaking down what this guy all did and his plan and all that. One of the terms that I like to refer to is called baiting. And, it's when these stalkers prey on kids, or even a target, even like me or whatever, they won't outright come with a fake account and start asking you questions and be obvious. They might have used to, but this guy thought it out accordingly. He put a lot of thought into this, or he did this previously to his other victims and just had experience, And not only, did he just fish for information, but the term baiting it's not so much like, baiting out information. It's a term that I use that, this guy would strike up a conversation, whether he was a friend of my son's, a friend of mine, a family member that he was pretending to be. If he wanted to know something, and this is how he got away for so long and how he didn't get caught, was he would just strike up a conversation and just start talking about whatever, pretending to be my friend or my family. And when it would come down to him trying to find out something that he wanted to know, all he had to do was direct the conversation and, say something that would make me reveal what he wanted to know, whether it was where my son went to school, what I'm up to, what I'm in school. Sometimes he would directly ask it out depending on the relationship I had with the person. But that's how he got away with it. And that's how I didn't notice, because he knew that if he pretended to be these people and he just talked to me every once in a while and asked just weird questions, which he did from certain accounts at first, because I did catch him from lots of accounts before I caught him red-handed. He did that. He would just outright just bluntly ask questions, and that's how I caught him. So he upped his game, and then he just started getting into conversations, and that's how he got his information from me, my information to him. And that's how I never caught him. And that I'm trying to go over how to explain to people how this guy went away undetected, how I didn't catch him, even though I was well aware he was somewhere, in the background watching me through accounts. That's next level stuff, is pretending to be somebody that the target knows, and, because they'll talk to them, right? And that's the exact reason why he did it. And like I said, it wasn't just to have the direct access. It was a way for him to find out stuff, because I never posted things publicly. I only told certain people personal stuff. And, because of this situation, it's completely changed the way that I move around the internet. And I like it. It's a lot more safer. I know I'm more secure. I know the people that I tell information to, only they know, and they know only. And there's been tons of stuff that's happened the last year, so there's no way for this guy to, stage things on a fake account, pretend to be me, because so many people know of the new things. He just can't pretend. He'll get caught. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say about the Xbox story. There will be more videos coming to do with this situation. But yeah, have a good day.